Let's take a look at some Revit rendering tips to help us create compelling renderings efficiently. Some designers will fall into a rendering trap where they will click the rendering button, wait for the results, make further adjustments, and click the rendering button again. This process repeats itself. Unfortunately, it consumes a large amount of time as well as cloud credits and doesn't always result in the best final rendering. On the other hand, great designers and rendering pros use an organized process to achieve a quality final rendering. We can think of this process as a recipe that starts with creating a well-composed camera view, saving that view, fine-tuning sunlight and shadows, adding realistic materials, applying artificial lighting, and by economically using the render options. Just like a professional photographer, we start by composing our view. Each view consists of a camera and a focus point. In Revit, we start by creating a 3D camera view. We can stretch the sides of the view. We can adjust the crop region. We can use the steering wheel to zoom, to look around, to pan, and also to rewind to create the perfect view. When we are satisfied with the view, it is important to right-click the view, select Rename, and give it a name that we can recognize later on in our process. Next, we adjust our sun position to achieve optimal sunlight and shadows within the view. We will do this by turning on the shadows. Then we will go to Sun Settings, change our solar study to Still, and then we will look for a day and time that will optimize the natural light within our scene, making adjustments until we have the light and shadow we desire. By adjusting sunlight carefully, we are working like a pro. Professionals paint with light and color. They think of their rendering as a framed composition, much like a photograph or painting. Now that we have orchestrated the natural light in our scene, we are ready to create and apply materials. First, we turn off shadows and turn on realistic mode. Then we create suitable materials in the material editor. The best materials are composed of high-resolution images that can be spread across large areas of the model. We can then paint our materials or add them within the properties of each family. Now we are ready to add artificial light. For this example, I have created a large sphere. In realistic mode, I can apply a material that has self-illumination. Self-illumination makes materials glow. I can adjust the luminance and the temperature. Then I can move the sphere back behind the camera, and it will still fill the scene with light, much like a photographer's studio light. We will now process the rendering. We want to optimize the settings so we get the best results in the shortest time possible. It is always a good idea to start with a draft local rendering. To do this, click on the teapot and change the scheme to interior or exterior and click Render. This rendering only took about 42 seconds to create and gives a good idea of how the view is working. When we are satisfied with our draft, it's time to select Render in Cloud. In the Cloud Render settings, render quality and image size will have the greatest impact on render time and cloud credit consumption. For example, this final quality 9 megapixel image consumed 9 cloud credits and took 18 minutes to render, plus queue time. The render quality for this rendering is still set to final, but the image size has been reduced to 1 megapixel. This dramatically dropped the time down to 5 minutes plus queue time, and only consumed 1 cloud credit. And by adjusting this rendering to standard quality, the time dropped to 3 minutes and 41 seconds and used no cloud credits. With all 6 steps of the rendering process complete, we can now click the render button and wait for the final result. By following this recipe, we can efficiently create engaging renderings for our designs.